Beneath the gilded crowns lay a city of shadows. When the great pestilence struck, the living could no longer bury the dead. How did a city built on filth and faith survive the darkest century in human history? By the mid-14th century, London was a beating heart of wooden tenements and toxic alleyways. Over 50,000 souls crammed into a square mile, desperate for coin and survival. But beneath the bustling trade, a deadly undercurrent was silently flowing from the river. From the holds of incoming merchant ships, an unseen passenger prepared to step ashore. No one knew that a microscopic killer was about to dismantle their entire world. Within weeks, the whisper of a strange sickness became a deafening cry of terror. The plague had arrived, and London's narrow streets became its perfect breeding ground. Priests offered prayers, but the heavens seemed entirely closed to the dying city. With no cure, the sick were abandoned to meet their agonizing end in darkness. The social fabric of the great medieval capital was about to completely unravel. To understand London's sudden collapse, one must look to its very foundations along the Thames. The city was a thriving commercial hub, protected by ancient, crumbling Roman stone walls. Inside these walls, a dense network of dark, unpaved streets formed a chaotic maze. Wealth and squalor existed side by side, separated only by a thin layer of plaster. At the heart of daily life was the church, commanding absolute devotion from every citizen. But the church's promises of salvation could not halt the encroaching rot of the environment. In the overcrowded suburbs, wood and thatched tenements housed the rapidly expanding labor force. Industry polluted the air and soil, with tanners and butchers dumping waste freely. This dense, unregulated growth created a highly fragile ecosystem, waiting for a spark. As winter approached, the citizens of London had no idea their environment had become a trap. At the break of dawn, the bells of London signaled the start of a grueling workday. For the lower classes, breakfast was little more than hard bread washed down with weak ale. By mid-morning, the Cheapside market was a swirling vortex of bartering, shouting, and desperate trade. Water was a precious commodity, fetched daily from communal conduits or directly from the dirty river. In dark workshops, skilled weavers and tailors spent endless hours crafting fine garments they would never wear. For recreation, crowds gathered in muddy fields to watch brutal, unregulated games of medieval football. As dusk fell, the smell of wood smoke and roasting meats filled the narrow, turning alleys. When darkness took the city, curfew bells forced everyone indoors, leaving the unlit streets empty. Armed watchmen patrolled the shadows, searching for thieves and curfew breakers in the pitch black. Behind locked doors, Londoners slept, unaware that the air they breathed was growing deadlier. In a world governed by disease, the medieval mind looked toward the heavens for absolute judgment. Every earthly misfortune, from failed harvests to the rising plague, was viewed as divine punishment. Desperate to save their souls, citizens turned to holy relics, paying fortunes to touch ancient bones. Across the city, radical sects of flagellants marched through the mud, whipping themselves to appease God. The boundaries between medicine and magic blurred completely as desperate people sought any protection.
Astrologers mapped the stars, claiming the alignment of Mars and Jupiter had poisoned the very air.
Yet no amount of prayer or penance could stop the relentless advance of the pestilence. As the church failed to provide answers, a quiet, terrifying crisis of faith began to take root. People realized the holy water and sacred rituals were powerless against the invisible enemy. Abandoned by their spiritual guides, the citizens of London faced the dark alone. As the plague stripped the city of its workers, the traditional balance of power began to fracture. With labor scarce, the surviving peasants demanded higher wages, defying centuries of strict feudal law. Terrified of losing control, the royal court struck back with harsh new laws to freeze all wages. But the anger among the working class could no longer be contained by royal decrees. From the countryside, a charismatic preacher named John Ball began to challenge the very rights of kings. The ultimate clash arrived when an army of commoners marched directly onto the capital. For the first time in history, the gates of London fell to its own people. The teenage King Richard II retreated to the safety of the Tower, watching his capital burn. In a desperate gamble, the young monarch agreed to meet the rebel leader face to face. A single bloody betrayal would decide the fate of the realm in a matter of seconds. With a swift, brutal strike, the rebel leader fell, leaving the massive peasant army completely paralyzed. Seizing the moment of confusion, the young king rode forward, promising the crowd everything they demanded. It was a brilliant trap. Once the rebels scattered, the crown revoked every single promise. The uprising was crushed, but the old feudal order had been fundamentally broken forever. Out of the ash and plague, a new London emerged, haunted by its dead, but built by the living.